Hi guys. Today I want to go over establishing some boundaries with your dog. So you can set boundaries for any number of things. Right now I want to start teaching the puppies that if I have food, I don't want them around me. So I'm going to stay nice and calm, but they get carefully pushed away and moved away from me at all times. I don't mind if my dogs are near me when I'm eating because my dogs know not to beg. You can see not begging for food, not begging for food. Me having food is not a big deal to them because they never get food when I eat. And I establish if you're going to pay attention to me when I'm eating, I'm not interested in it. So if you're nice and consistent with it, you didn't notice, but the other two puppies already ran off. I still have Blue, who's hoping he might get something. But if I pay attention to him when I'm eating, it's not going to happen. Even if I'm paying attention to him when I'm pushing him away and I'm going, oh, what a good boy. Oh, come on, go away. Go away. No, it's okay. It's okay. There's so much confusion there because I'm paying attention to him. So essentially I'm saying yes, but my actions are saying no. So he gets very confused. If everything's homogenous, so my body, I'm not paying attention to him, I'm not looking at him, I'm not talking to him, and he's getting moved away in a very calm but firm way, he will pay attention to that because that makes sense to him. We have to communicate with our dogs in a way that makes sense to them. So if I'm saying yes and no at the same time, he doesn't understand that. So it's worth him continuing to try and work for it. So I do this with the puppies on all of their meals. They actually haven't even eaten yet, and it's relatively late for their meals, so they should actually be begging for food, but they're not because they know it's not going to work. This applies for all different types of things. Dogs who beg for attention, dogs who beg for food. If it doesn't work, eventually it will go away. Now, this works much quicker on these puppies because there's no history of the behavior working for them. So if, let's say in the past, I would sneak my dog some chicken with every meal, that has a history of rewarding. So that's going to take much longer and much more persistence from me and consistency for that behavior to go away. My dog's behavior will also likely degrade when I start ignoring them because for them, when they sit next to me or they beg at the table or they demand things, that behavior works. So they're thinking this behavior should continue to work, so they will often pick up the intensity of their behavior. They'll bark more, they'll start nudging into you, they'll start jumping on you. The intensity of their behaviors will likely increase because to them that has always worked. You can, again, minimize that by either ignoring them. I might use a small amount of punishment where I leave the room, or I have the dog leave the room. That creates some more clarity for them. There's nothing that they can beg for at that point. It can also help to negate or at least minimize some of that extinction burst, which is where the behavior gets stronger before it goes away. So that's one way to avoid that. Because now there's nothing to fight for, we have changed our behavior as well, and our behavior change often facilitates our dog's behavior change. If you sit there and did your dog, the picture is the same as normal, but they're not getting the same results, they're much more likely to work for that. But if you change the picture, it makes more sense to them. That's another time when you can also use spatial pressure. I made a different video on that. So if you're sitting at the table and your dog isn't respecting your space, I'll get up and I'll use spatial pressure to put them back. You might have to get up repeatedly in order to have that work for you. So I wouldn't sit down for a nice meal when you do that. You might get up 10, 15 times. Eventually your dog will give up. You'll sit down, you'll settle in a little bit again. Your dog will try again. That's okay. Don't give up. Just reintroduce like, hey, this is the boundary. Usually I use a room boundary, so it's easier. I use a doorway or something, and I say I want you to stay on that side, or I'll use a rug or something. But it makes more sense for your dog. And then we have changed their behavior. You can reward them on that side if you want, but please, 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 if you're working on something like this with a boundary with food, don't feed your dog from your plate. You can feed them in other ways, but if you don't want them to beg in the kitchen or beg from your food, don't feed them in relation to those behaviors. You know, you can sneak a little bit of chicken into their bowl afterwards, but it doesn't need to be directly from you, or it could be with a context where after my meal, after everything is done, the dog's settled down, they're not begging me, that's when I will give them food, because that's the behavior I want to reward. If we reward them for sitting here and staring at me, that's what they get rewarded for. So we just really have to make sure that we are being consistent with our dogs and that they're getting the same message that we are trying to give. If I rewarded him right now, I'd be thinking that I'm rewarding that calmness, but he might be thinking he's getting rewarded just by being in my vicinity. Kind of depends on the dog. All dogs interpret things differently, just like people. So just be aware of that. Try and look at your actions and see how your dog establishes those and modify your reactions accordingly. With the pitties, if they jump on me and I push them down, I think I'm saying no, but they think I'm starting a rousing game. It's not them trying to be bad, but it's just a huge miscommunication. I think I'm saying one thing, they think I'm saying something completely different. So keep that in mind. Keep your dog in mind. Keep how they learn in mind. It's all relative to the dog. For other dogs, if you use a little bit of pressure and you push them down, that means a lot to them. They'll be like, oh, I'm so sorry. But generally for the pitties, they're a little bit gamier. They like some rough play, so I push them down. They enjoy that. So that is actually one of the things I'll do with play. I'll invite them to jump up. I push them down, but that gets them going. And I know that, and I'm okay with that because I can turn that on and turn it off in different contexts. If you don't know how to do that, though, it becomes very frustrating. So just keep that in mind, and I hope that helps, and have a great night.